What do you know?
I can't talk about it, but I just need you to trust me. You kept secrets, but I trust you.
That's not the same.
Why not? You hid things. Mother hid things. You had good reasons, and so do I. Why can't you just...
God of War Ragnarok has been out for almost 3 weeks at the time of me making this video, and I wanted to take some time to discuss the game and give my own personal rating. I don't make a lot of reviews, but many people have been asking my thoughts about games over the last few months, so here I am giving my own opinion on God of War Ragnarok. Please keep in mind that this review is not spoiler free. My goal is to deliver my thoughts after experiencing the majority of the game. I met with our community in Discord and held a big roundtable discussion about the game to make sure I was missing as little as possible. Shout out to everyone that was present for that, I appreciate your input. Let's get the easy one out of the way. Graphically, the game is great. It's recognizable, but definitely a step up from the previous God of War game. I played on PlayStation 5 with favorite performance mode and high frame rate mode, which allowed me to play at 1440p and 60 frames per second. The performance was incredible. There was only one instance I can think of where the frame rate dropped during gameplay, and it was during the fight with Gná. I really don't have much to say about this otherwise. The graphics look great, everything was very clear as to what it was and what's going on around you. For what this game is, Santa Monica nailed it. I've played through the majority of the game myself now. I haven't 100%ed it, but I am pretty close. I've completed the story, I've taken down the King Berserker as well as the Valkyrie Queen Gná, all on Give Me God of War difficulty. This difficulty was a good challenge, and that's a big positive for me as I enjoy being challenged in the games that I play. Nothing in the game was so challenging that I couldn't overcome it with strategy and practice, but the fact that it made me stop to think about strategy and how to go about getting better is something that I really appreciate. The combat is a big highlight for me here as well, and I'm sure most people will agree. It's always exciting to get into a fight. Even after 70 hours of gameplay, I didn't get bored of any of the moves. Earlier in the game, I was using a lot of unarmed combat to make use of Lunda's armor set and the poison damage, then I shifted to runic heavy build later on. I do wish there were more unarmed moves, but the addition of the drop near spear, I am okay with it being where it is. The fluidity and motion throughout the fights is what really gets me. Kratos' moveset with every weapon can be tied together so well when you understand them, and comboing everything together to include runic abilities as well is so incredibly satisfying. It even made the most basic of fights seem more cinematic, and for that I can say I love the combat. I will say that I did have an issue with the shield overall in the game. It just seemed like it was a little bit slow to the actual command of the button press for it to come up. But overall, I just kind of adjusted to it and got on the other side of that whole idea. The controls overall are pretty solid. There's only one exception for me personally that I don't like, and it's a carryover from the previous God of War game. The activation of Spartan Rage using L3 and R3. I constantly activate Spartan Rage on accident because I'm trying to sprint around to attack enemies, and then when you get a stun on an enemy, it wants you to press R3 to command grab them. I often hit R3 while sprinting, and if you do that, it activates Spartan Rage instead of grabbing the enemy. It's so much less punishing if you use Valor or Wrath, but overall still somewhat annoying. Not a big deal at the end of the day though. You can adjust, just like I mentioned earlier with the shield, you get on the other side of it and then it just is a thing of the past. One thing God of War has always done really well alongside combat is story. It's one thing for a story to be gripping, but it's another when it makes you feel different emotions throughout the course of the game. There were several moments in the story where I was excited, then extremely sad, and then worrying about the characters for so many different reasons. The well-placed music in every situation was so powerful and added to the emotions you feel playing the game. I'm open enough to admit that I cried during a couple moments while playing the game live on stream, and while they were incredibly sad moments, it's the connection to the characters that was so masterfully crafted that I will never forget. Let's also not forget the amazing use of a single camera shot to flow from gameplay to cutscenes. Add this to the top tier voice acting all around and environments in every realm that make every location feel unique and inspired. The overall story and gameplay experience, because of all this, is top quality that just is not seen very often. A major improvement in this game over the previous is the optional content. For me, the only optional content really worth anything in the previous game was the Valkyrie fights. In God of War Ragnarok, you have the Berserkers, which are optional boss fights similar to the Valkyries. The Berserker King after taking out all of them, and then Gná the Valkyrie Queen, the dragons, the drakes, and so on and so forth. You get so much lore, rewards for exploring in both runic abilities and armor pieces and other things of all sorts that if you don't do the optional content, you're actually hurting your own power. There's so much to explore specifically in Vanaheim, by the way. If you haven't checked out the crater area in Vanaheim, please go do so. Some of the best gameplay in the entire game is there, and I cannot stress this enough. Even finding all of Odin's ravens is worth it in this game and gives some incredibly good rewards as well. Now, as much as I've been gushing over this game so far, it's time to discuss some of the negatives. These negatives aren't a lot, so I won't spend much time talking about them, except for one specifically that bothers me to no end and affects my overall score of the game. There were some moments through my playthrough of the game where enemies would spawn in or get stuck inside the walls. This isn't particularly bad, as you can just reload the checkpoint and redo the fight so you can make progress, but it can be annoying specifically in the Crucible challenges in Muspelheim, where you're often timed and need to take care of enemies quickly. There was also a few moments where progression is blocked by broken interaction-based area transfer. I noticed this mostly in Muspelheim as well, but it can happen in other areas too. Just like the previous issue, a quick reload of the latest checkpoint often fixed this. The biggest issue and by far the largest negative I will talk about with God of War Ragnarok is the major backseating that all the sidekick characters did while traveling around with Kratos and Atreus in his moments too. Atreus, Freya, Brock, and Sindri all spoil puzzle solutions before you even get a chance to assess how to do the puzzle yourself, and there's absolutely no way to get them to stop except turning the dialogue all the way down, which hurts the gameplay experience in other ways.
Let's keep looking around. There's gotta be something else. There's gotta be a better angle on that
More
twilight.
light elves ahead. I'll handle this.
Blocked.
Could I reach it from down here?
Could we find the shield?
I know that the purpose is to help players make steady progress through the game, but I love figuring out puzzles for myself, and for the game to spoon feed it to me before I even realize there's a puzzle to be solved is a major problem. This is absolutely something that we as players should be able to opt out of or into. I personally don't care which, just as long as we can customize the experience so we can solve the puzzles ourselves. The only other example I can think of in recent gaming memory that does this is Aloy in Horizon Forbidden West, which is also a PlayStation exclusive at the moment. I love that game too, but I really wish the characters would be quiet or talk about literally anything else aside from the puzzle I'm trying to figure out. Now that I'm done ranting about the backseating dialogue, that's the end of my review of God of War Ragnarok. This game is an absolute masterpiece in so many ways, and the only thing truly holding it back from a perfect score for me is an option to turn off backseating dialogue. The other bugs that exist are minimal and non-problematic after checkpoint reloads. The story, gameplay, graphics, the performance, optional side content, the cutscenes and the music, voice acting, environments, and variety and build options give this game massive replayability and recommendability. After playing through 95% of the game and taking some time to think everything over, I'm giving this game a juice score of 9 out of 10. I've heard a lot of people call this game a $70 expansion, and I just have to disagree. This game is an experience worthy of itself and the God of War franchise. The only thing the previous game does better is the Valkyries overall. I do enjoy them more than the Berserkers, however we still get a few fights with the Valkyries in Ragnarok anyway, so I'm overall pretty pleased with it. Please play God of War Ragnarok. Thank you all so much for watching my review video. Be excellent to each other, and I'll see you all soon.